More happening on the news front to wrestle with on the program tonight. Let's bring in our panel. Liberal Senator Holly Hughes is in the studio. Former Labor Minister Graham Richardson and commentator and lawyer Carolyn de Russo, who joins us from Perth. G'day, team.
Evening, Smithy.
Good evening.
Good to have you with us. The political story of the week, Richo, I've got to give this one to you, has been Labor's proposed Federal Anti-Corruption Commission. I think it looks better than what I thought it may have looked like. But today we learn it'll be powerless to investigate union officials who misuse their authority to enter and shut down workplaces under other federal legislation. Now, I know what Mark Dreyfus said on The Insiders today, but there is a raft of fair work legislation and legislation that pertains to unionists, giving them the right to go on and do their thing. This is going to be a clash. I'm nearly sure of it.
Oh, it has to be. I mean, I know Labor's going to tell you it won't be, but I can't see how it would operate any other way. I think you know, the way that Labor governments handle trade unions is always very sensitive because people assume they're going to favour them over employers. There's an assumption that that legislation will always be on the side of the unions. And so I think Labor's got to be very careful with this one. You can't just assume people will accept what you do. And I don't think that you can say that the behaviour of all trade unions is sufficient to justify this.
No.
As long as you have rogues, and there are rogues, then I don't see that you can do this very easily.
Yeah, Holly, there will be a clash of legislation here, and it only takes a challenge for it to all come crashing down. Dreyfus has some work to do, surely. Otherwise, it becomes a joke.
Look, this exclusion of the unions is just absolutely ludicrous. And, you know, the Teals and all of those independents and everyone who's sitting on crossbenches that campaigned on integrity, transparency and all of those sorts of platforms, well, this is their opportunity to stand up and say this isn't on. You can't put third parties in and include businesses and advisors and then say, oh, but Mr Setka, etc., are all excluded from this. I mean, it's blatant in what they're doing.
There has to be an overriding piece of legislation that allows this to be susceptible to investigation.
Look, absolutely, but I think we need to be really careful. I think the point's been made. If there are these sort of wide-ranging investigations that are allowed, that in fact we've now got a situation where they're saying that the Prime Minister's own phone could be tapped, that we won't have cabinet in confidence being respected and all of those sorts of things happening, that they will become a target for international players to potentially try and intercept that information all being put together. So this needs to be done properly. It cannot be a political show pony. It cannot be done for point scoring because this could be really damaging into the future. Yeah,
very true. On to Optus. It's going from bad to very worse for Optus. They've received a kick in the bum from the federal government again today. It says many customers affected by this widespread breach weren't properly notified. The government has not received a list of those who were hit. They asked for it 5 days ago, Caro. As I said earlier, even the credit check company they referred customers to has had a massive data breach themselves. They can't survive this, surely.
It's just abysmal, isn't it? It's like we talk about data and we talk about privacy and we talk about hacking all of the time, and we always talk about it in this real theoretical sense, and then something goes wrong and the tide goes out and everyone's starkers. I mean, from beginning to end with Optus here, it has been crisis management by the Tea and Sympathy Committee. It has been absolutely terrible. That ad in the newspaper was absolutely terrible. We're really sorry. We want to regain your trust. No, fix it first, buddy. We'll talk trust later. The interview that you did the other day, well, you were fine. The corporate affairs director from Qantas, whoops, Freudian slip, Optus, was an absolute disaster.
Train wreck.
I don't know how you end up making a data breach affecting 10,000 customers all about you, but anyway, she achieved that in just the most sterling fashion, just so narcissistic, so self-centred. There are people every day who are being affected by this. Their driver's licence details are now out in the open where they live. And those sorts of details, you know, your passport and your driver's licence, that's a 100-point check, Chris. That there has the possibility to impact everyday people in a very, very serious way. They're dragging their feet. If they're not giving the list to the government, well, then it makes me wonder whether they actually know who's been affected.
Yeah, that's true. That's how incompetent they are. Richo, you're one of the great professional troubleshooters in the history of the world. It's one thing to make a stuff up and to allow this to go out. It's another thing to stuff up the rectification.
Yeah, well, what you have to do if you stuff up is first apologise quickly, really quickly. Admit you got it wrong, but then your job is to fix it properly. You can't half-ass fix it. You've got to do it all the way. And unfortunately, there's a fair bit of half-assism in this.
Half-assism? Where's my Macquarie dictionary? National Cabinet has agreed to drop mandatory isolation rules from October 14, but the AMA isn't happy with the change. They want Australians to continue isolating and wearing masks even when they're well. Holly, the bedwetters can't balance health concerns with all the other things that need to come into consideration. It's not just about health.
No, and these people would have us all living under the doona for the rest of our days if they had their way. I mean, the AMA, let's be honest, the AMA is fundamentally a union. This is not an industry associational group run by doctors for the benefit of doctors. They have a very, very small membership now if you look at the number of doctors across the country versus their own membership. And what we see for the new member for Kooyong, I mean, she's going to have to wear that mask in for eternity now after her
Except when she parties. Except
when she doesn't want to wear it and it's inconvenient and uncomfortable. But, you know, the hypocrisy here is just outstanding. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we are going to have to get on with life. It's just as simple as that.
Just on Monique Ryan, because she's a neurologist, Carol, and she knows all about COVID-19, she's found a friend in the Burnet Institute as well who says that we're about to go in a period where COVID is going to be worse than we had for 3 years. Like, seriously? Do we want to just shut everything down and turn into hermits?
No, we don't, Chris. We most definitely don't want to do that. And the thing that we need to understand as well is the first time that we went into a COVID-related type, you know, shutdown or lockdown, you know, we had a relatively healthy economy. You know, we didn't have things like an energy crisis, like inflation, like a tumbling housing market and all these other sorts of things. The impact on the economy and the impact on people of going back into some sort of restrictions or whatever is going to be so much worse the next time round because we're starting from a lower base. You know, we're already seeing the health impacts on children for other things. We can't be doing that again.
No, things have changed outside of COVID. You're exactly right. That's nailed this topic. Now, can you put your royal watching hat on again, Richo? I was very impressed with you during the funeral for Queen Elizabeth II. King Charles III has abandoned plans to attend next month's United Nations Climate Change Summit after being muzzled by Liz Truss, the British PM. Richo, if the story is accurate, Charles can't help his obsession with climate hysteria, can he?
No, and I think that'll go on. But Liz Truss showed some real balls here. She stood up and just went, whack, you're going nowhere, pal. I thought that was terrific.
Yeah.
So
it's the only thing she's doing right.
I didn't know much about Liz Truss, but what you see, you've got to like.
Yes, she must have got some lessons from Camilla, possibly. The ABC has acknowledged its decision to spend $50 million relocating 300 staff from the CBD in Sydney to Sydney's West in Parramatta. It's upset staff. Oh, the poor pedals. They're going to be taken away from their inner west elite suburbs and whacked into working class Parramatta. They actually might learn something about real life, Holly.
Well, they might. I mean, let's not get too carried away. I wouldn't count on it, but there is a slight opportunity here. They may actually get to meet someone who lives outside of the inner city or inner west for the first time, probably many of their lives. And they might sort of work out that not everyone drinks soy, almond, slight half mocha cappuccinos in a biodegradable cup or whatever it is they do down
With
there.
a
I don't
paper
know.
straw.
I don't know, with a paper straws. But look, I was out in Fairfield today. I was out at the Philippine
Beautiful.
Australian Culture Festival there, the first time. It's been held for 3 years thanks to COVID.
If politicians can do that, so can the media.
Well, can I tell you, it took 45 minutes from the city.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're not talking a very long way with the road network now.
good point.
And that's further than Parramatta by a long way. So Parramatta is very, very close to the Sydney CBD now, particularly with the road network and the transport. So get over it, Diddums.
Carolyn, put your business person's hat on right now. Cop this. Randwick Council in Sydney's East has shut down an entrepreneurial 12-year-old boy's business selling cold drinks and dog treats at Bondi. It's rejected his application to stay open because two miserable locals said he shouldn't be making money from what he's doing. What a miserable bunch they are. And the council could have shown a little bit of ticker for the kid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are. They're just mirthless. But, you know, misery loves company. So whoever the locals are, no doubt they're mates with the councillors. You know what I say? Bone the council, put the 12-year-old in charge of the Randwick Council, and I reckon he'd do a much better job.
I think exactly. Now, Richo, you've had one eye on the grand final tonight, no doubt. So you be our NRL correspondent. Penrith or Parramatta?
Oh, Penrith will win.
How much?
No question. By at least 10 points.
It could replicate what happened in the AFL. I hope it's not an over, done and dusted by half
Please,
time.
that was a dreadful game,
was
the
dreadful.
AFL Grand Final.
Who are you picking? Do you know?
Look, it's not really my sport, but I am going to pick Penrith. I'm going to be in agreement with Richo here.
Right,
I've just
okay.
upset Alex Hawke no end. He'll be very excited tonight. His beloved Parramatta are playing, but I'm hearing, though, that Penrith are being outnumbered on the ground at the moment.
Are they?
At
your core stadium?
The Parramatta supporters are out in force.
We're going to get out
much
there.
Penrith.
All right. Carolyn, you don't give a damn, do you?
Well, it's not my state and it's not my sport, but I am fabulous at being a contrarian, so I'm going to take the Eels.
Yay! Like that. I'm going for the Eels. Richo, Carolyn, Holly, have a great week.
Enjoy tonight.
All right. We'll